Who can remember the rules of three? Anybody remember the first one?
Can't live 3 minutes without air.
3 minutes without air. What's the second one?
3 days without water.
3 days without water. Well, we got one in between there, though. You got hours, remember?
Yeah. Weather without shelter.
Yep. Okay. You've got 3 minutes without oxygen. You've got 3 hours without what? Shelter. And that's because of winter, things like that. Even could be summer too. I mean, if you're in the desert or something like that. 3 days without water. And what is it? 3 weeks without what? Food. I mean, that just blew my mind. 3 weeks without food. I mean, I know me being a Christian and things like that, I've done fasting, but I've never done 3 weeks. And then we look at the Son of God and what he did. That's amazing. So this is, everybody's been asking me, how can I start a plan? I had that written on all the surveys. Everyone checked that box. So we want to be able to develop a preparedness plan. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and actually make out a list for the year. And that's what we started with this. You're going to see this week number 1. If you'll look at those, you've got here developing a preparedness plan. Week number 1, guys, you got to have some homework. Lists, and more lists. Those of you who are fly by the seat of your pants, you're not going to like this. And those that are very meticulous are going to love it. My wife is very meticulous, but she still doesn't like to do the list. So we're there, here, and there. But this is what you're going to do. You're going to take inventory of everything you've got in your home. How can you know where to start if you don't know where you're at? Okay? How do you know? Because I've been in that position before. I was buying this, buying that, jumping here and there, but you've really got to have a list of what you're doing. We're going to be doing lists here. All right? Let's look at these here. Make a list of what you already have in your home, otherwise available to you. List you want to make. Food storage. Okay? Just what you've got in your house. Canned goods. Things like this. Got to look at the expiration dates. I found a site, which you'll find here later on, that'll actually tell you really what the expiration dates are on canned goods, things like this, how many years they'll last. It goes down to toothpaste. It's amazing what they'll show you each thing is. I mean, it's very meticulous. So we want you to go through your food storage, go through your cupboards, fridge, freezer, mark down every single item in the home. I know this is going to be painstaking, tiring, but you need to do this. You need to know what you've got. I mean, how many have looked in their freezer and went to the store and said, well, I didn't know that was in there. It's 3 years old. I mean, I've done it. It's been in the bottom of the freezer. I thought I didn't have that. So this is going to help you too on your food storage. So go through, check it out. Water storage. Next list, how much water you have stored. Include bottles of water that you have through the house. Find out the capacity of the water heater. Now, this is a big thing here, unless you have one of those small ones that just heat as you go. Your water heater has between 30 to 40 gallons of water. Don't forget about that. If something ever happened to where your electric went out, it has actually a nozzle on it on the bottom where you can put a garden hose and you can let out for drinking water and things like that. So,
with the new one then.
What's that?
I should have kept the old type.
Well, and that's the thing, but there's other ways to do it too. There's other ways like your bathtub. Now, myself, I would not want to, even though our bathtub is excellently cleaned, I would not want to drink straight out of the bathtub. So what they do is they make these bladders that you can actually put in your tub and fill up. So let's say a storm is coming and you think maybe the electric might go out and you want water. It's actually a full bladder bag that sits inside and they're not much. You can look them up on the internet and you can fill that bladder up and use it. So that's another accessibility instead of the water heater. But we're trying to give you basic things to where you don't have to spend too much money, easy things to try to do. Let's see here. This is something you don't want to forget about either, is your toilets. Okay, for water, because you're going to have to be able to flush. If the electric's off, like mine, I live on a well. I talked about that last month. You're going to need to have access with water. If you don't have electricity or don't have a generator or solar, something like that, you're going to need to be able to fill your tanks up. And I think a tank holds 2 gallons. I believe so. It depends on, is it 3?
Some of them 3.
Some of them 3. So it depends if it's water conservative, or it might be 3 for mine too. That's a lot of water. I mean, to use for toilets, but you're going to have it for sanitation. Also too, let's see here. If you have water purification equipment, such as a Berkey filter or purification tablets, list them here as well. Anything to do with water. First aid, medical supplies. You can go through, it'll tell you later on. I mean, you don't have to read it all, but just going through and itemizing everything that you have. If you've seen what I have, it's pretty amazing because we've done a lot on medical stuff. So I showed you the box of Band-Aids that would have been a lifetime for probably me and my grandkids. So guys, think free. We just had off of, who got the Facebook page for Diane's Daily Deals? Who got that? Did anybody get on that? They had multiple things coming out for this month. One was movies. You actually got them free, like the kids' movies and stuff. And I'm always looking for movies for the grandkids, Epic and things like this. But also, too, she had shampoo on there that actually was eventually free once you got done with a coupon and whatever the stores had, and then went for the coupon and then the rebate. It was free. So that was a great thing. So get on there, click on that link. This is really good. Hygiene. I want you to include rolls of toilet paper. People do not think about this luxury that would happen if you, for some reason, the crap hit the fan or whatever. They don't think about this. What are you going to do when the TP runs? Most people have a 4-pack or an 8-pack in their home. What are you going to do if it ever runs out? Okay, they're talking about an ice storm tonight. Okay, if you were down for a couple of days, would you have enough in your home? So this is what you need to do. List toothpaste, soap, shampoo, all this kind of stuff. Also, tools. This is very, very good because you're going to have a way to charge them, but who's heard of Lehman's? Anybody heard of Lehman's? Man, you two are on it. I love it. Lehman's is they started their business selling to the Amish. So they're non-powered, non-electric tools. And then they branched out with the preparedness and survival communities. These guys have everything, and I meant to bring the list or the book for you guys to see it, but you can get online. They'll send you a free catalog, and these guys are incredible. They've got anything from drills, you name it, to pumps, the old hand pumps that you can put out, anything and everything. These guys are really good. And there's other sites out there also, but I just know that because they're in Ohio, so they're a local company. I think they're past Cleveland, I believe it is. But they say it's really nice. I believe Gus has been there. He's told me about it.
How they work without power, like a drill. You crank it.
Yeah, it'd be the hand crank or whatever. Yep, an auger, anything like that. Yeah, you go back to the old style. And see, that's the thing. And also, too, you can look at, if you do have power tools, there's ways to run it. Solar is one of the best ways to run it. I know a guy that set it up where he's got a small solar panel that he bought from Harbor Freight. And he charges a battery. He takes his chainsaw out and plugs it in. He has a converter and plugs it in because it's an electric chainsaw and cuts his wood off the battery. It lasts forever. There's all kinds of ways to do this. It's real simple, and we're going to get into that later on. We're going to set up, we've got a gentleman that actually does, and I think I've told you this, he builds solar panels from scratch for the government, for satellites, so they've got to be durable. He knows how to do windmills, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about windmill, electric, solar power, things like that. The major things is there are drawbacks with these powered ways of doing things. Solar can only do so much. It's the initial hit whenever your furnace kicks on or whatever. That's what kills the batteries. So furnaces are hard to run off of batteries unless it's just a fan. If it's an oil pump, you can't do it. There's no way. Just like your dryer. You could not run your dryer off a windmill or a solar panel because of the fact it's too much pull, too much energy. But hey, guess what? You can go out there and set up some lines on a post and dry it by the wind, like my grandma used to do. No brainer. So there's all, unless in the wintertime you got stiff clothes and it's a little tough. But then you do it on the, what's that? Yeah, freeze them. Yeah, freeze dried. There we go, freeze dried clothes. But you can hang them on the inside of the house. So these are some of the things. Tools, we already did. Miscellaneous, okay. Odds and ends, including anything you feel that will be an asset during or immediately after a disaster. It wasn't covered previously. Things like batteries, camping equipment, propane grills, all this kind of stuff. Please realize making these lists isn't something you can accomplish in just an hour or so. Like anything else, to do the job right, it takes time and effort. Okay, it's going to take you time to get this done. You're not going to get it done by next month. Okay, but I want you to start doing this. You've got to get an inventory. Now, there's a site too There's a great web resource for this. It's found Organize Your Life website. Circle that or whatever, and it's highlighted. Organize Your Life website, and I've got it down there. Just punch that in, and they have anything and everything on expiration dates, really what they are. I mean, they had some crazy stuff on there. Dental floss. Who knows dental floss had an expiration date? I guess it doesn't taste as minty or something. I don't know. Okay, the next one, I've got this, and I put these in weeks, but what you want to try to think in the process, basic water storage, clean. Who knows what the word potable means?
Drinkable.
Drinkable. Yeah. I always thought it was for the toilet, but no, it wasn't. Until I Googled it years ago. But yeah, because I remember seeing it on a truck. What does potable mean, you know? But yes, and then also too, there's other ways of using gray water too. That is not clean to drink, but you can actually use it for other stuff too. So there's many different ways. Now, who can remember how many gallons you need for drinking water per person per day? Who can remember? One. Now, that is the bare minimum for one day, is 1 gallon per person. So if you got 3, you got 3 gallons. It takes at least 3 gallons if you're wanting to wash to some degree, clean dishes. You're going to need 3 gallons per person per day. Folks, that's a lot of water. A lot of water. So you've got to come up with either some way to filter it. Would you shut that door for me? Please, thank you. We need some way to filter it or to take it out, you know, wherever you need to, out of the well or things like that. Or you need to know how to store that. We're going to get into that where you can add bleach to water to make it sustain so it doesn't get any kind of thing. Or if you have a Berkey or some other kind of filtration system, you can use those also. So we'll talk about that, but I want you just to take inventory. Some of the things, cheap ways to do it, if you drink anything with 2 liters, save those 2 liters. Those 2-liter bottles, wash them out really good, and then put your water in them. Okay, they're a great way to store. They also sell commercial grade ones where you'll see out here for the camping ones, they're green, 7 gallons. You can store them in there. Or you can buy water barrels that are food grade water barrels, and you can actually store them in there. We actually have a line right now where there's a guy that buys 55-gallon barrels of tea, and he empties those out. So we may have a line on those to where you can actually store your water in those. But there's all kinds of methods. It's just choosing what's right for you. I did have some people check on space. You've got to think about this. Where are you going to put these things at? Do you have a basement, or is it just closets? I've seen people use coffee tables to store stuff, and it was out of the way. Nobody could really tell until you got into it that they had food storage or whatever in there. So you want to be very cautious. Make sure it looks aesthetic, because you don't want to look like a crazy nut out there. You've got boxes stacked up to the ceiling, and you're ready for World War III or Y3K or whatever. Okay, you know, we want to live a normal life here, folks. This is what this is about. But you've got, if you be smart about this, the attic. The attic is a great place to put any of your paper products, things like this. So utilize those spaces. Utilize those spaces. See how much you've stored right now? How many days could you last on the water storage you have right now? I mean, just think, just take a second and think how much water you've got in your place. Now, bottles of water, that's not going to last very long. I don't care. I've got probably, I think, 15 cases at the house. If I just had that, that wouldn't last long at all, you know. So you want to look at that. Just take an inventory. Good containers, we've talked about that. Also, too, where to store your water at. You don't want to put it right next to the furnace or over a furnace grate. You want to keep it in, try to keep it in a dark, cool place if you can. A closet's a good thing. It doesn't have air circulation, things like that. We have a room that we actually have where it's all concrete. It's like a basement, but it's attached to the house. Some of you have basements, which is a perfect place if you can. The problem that you'll see is if you go long term and you don't treat the water, you can get very sick after a period of time because it can develop bacteria in there. So you've got to be very careful on storing water, all right? We're going to produce that when we start talking about the water. We're going to tell you how much bleach, how many drops, things like that to use. Or you can get on and look, man, the internet has a plethora of information on that. So you want to watch this stuff. So if you're like a clear bottle, if you have it and direct sunlight's hitting it, eventually 3 to 6 months, it'll go bad on you. So you want to be careful of that, all right? So always be conscious. Okay, and what I put here is drink what you store what you drink. Okay, don't go out and buy something you're not going to use. Don't go out and buy some container, because I've done that in the past. Went out and bought this container, have great intentions, but then never use it. Don't go out and do that. Use what you're buying. I guarantee if you go around your house, before you go out and buy anything, if you go around your house and take inventory, you're going to find out you have a lot more than what you thought. We did. Once we gathered all stuff together, things like that, we had a lot more. I can tell one spouse is going to love this and one spouse is going to hate this. Out with the old, purging. Yep, I heard that one. Don, you are in trouble, my man. No? Okay. You the old, I stepped in that one, didn't I? Okay, all right. Out with the old. We have too much stuff. All right? Guys, how many, I hate to say this, I don't want to be biased, but ladies, how many pairs of shoes do you need? Without my wife saying. Okay? Because she'll tell you 50. She'll tell you 50. But, okay, guys, how many tools of the same tool do you need? 5. Caleb says 5. 5. Oh, y'all are brainwashed. I can tell Sears loves you. Sears Craftsman loves you. But go through. Let's start getting out. You say you don't have space. I guarantee I could come in your home. I guarantee you I could come in your home and find space.
How much do you charge?
How much do I charge? No, I didn't say I was moving it. I said I could find it. But yes, there was a lady that I delivered to, and she had spoke to me, and she was very serious because I had mentioned to her what we were doing. She can't get out. She's disabled. And she almost started crying. She says, Tim, I'm on the 8th floor of this building. What can I do? She's in a wheelchair. You know, she says, I have no room. I'm on a limited budget. Everything else, what can I do? And she began to cry. And I said, listen, there's tons of stuff you can do just to use what you've got. I can, you know, and so every time I go out there, I talk to her and I let her know little things that she can actually apply to her life. Going down to the Dollar General store and buying small things. She was asking me, you know, what happens if something happens, the power goes out and people start being stupid, acting just stupid. What do I do? And I begin to set her a plan up. This is how you're going to, if the water's off, she's got no water. How does she have sanitation then? So I begin to explain to her, this is what you need to do. And we'll go into that a little bit of time. But one of them is, this is one of the greatest ideas in the world. Take one of those black garbage trash bags, the industrial ones, set it in the toilet. Once you're done, fold it up. And if you have to, and if something's happened where it's major, out the window. Whatever you have to do to make sure that you can take care of yourself. Oh yes, the 8th floor. But I wouldn't want to be the guy on the 1st floor. Would not want to be the guy on the 1st floor. But yeah, I mean, but it's true, you know. And so she's been taking Coke bottles, things like this that she's been finding, putting water in them. Things like that, and it's real simple stuff. Now you can go more elaborate if you've got the money, that's fine. But there's ways, whether it's urban, country, suburb, there's ways to handle this stuff. Some of you may have tons of room, like Gus, he's got a plantation out there, you know, he can handle it all. But no, there's different areas. Just like I said, your area might not have the same disaster that could happen in your area or my area. So you've got to assess your area and see what's going on there, and then go from that point. If you're living in an apartment, what are you going to do? What happens if something happens where you're down for 11 days? Remember the hurricane winds we had, 6 years ago or whatever? Your power's out for 11 days. I don't know how them people did it. Lived in the camper. There we go. But
I loved it. We had a fire pit.
See,
Cooked on the fire pit.
that's awesome. Cooked on the fire pit. You know, we weren't prepared at the time. I said this last meeting, but we weren't prepared at the time. And so we had a well, but didn't have electric. And we had the freezer and refrigerator, but luckily we didn't open it up. But I ran to a friend's house who had electric to get water to put in the toilets. Is that crazy? But I did what I had to do. But now we won't have to do that anymore. But you've got to think of your scenarios. What would happen, you know? So let's see here. Start purging. Preps not only require investments of time and money, they require space. Space. This will be a year-round project. You guys are going to have to keep on top of this. Go through it. And then what are you going to do with the stuff that you find? Well, the stuff that can be sold, sell it to buy more preps, to buy more stuff that you need. You know, you don't have to go out and spend a ton of money. You can find stuff around your house, I guarantee you, that you're not using. And be able to sell in the garage sale. What is it? What's some of the other areas that you can do it in? But what's that? Craigslist, things like that. You know, there's tons of places that people need stuff like that. And even giving it away. I've seen there's an ad on Craigslist where you don't want it anymore. You want to give it away. They're free stuff. And look on it yourself. Somebody knocking? I was very fortunate where there was something that a friend of mine needed, and actually Don, you guys had provided for. It was a freezer that they didn't need any longer, and they were looking to renew their kitchen. So I took it and gave it to a friend of mine, and he put it out in his garage. So there's things that we can help each other with that are free. It doesn't take a lot. You've got ways to sell it, but also too, what happens if it's not, if you can't sell it? Trash it, throw it away. I know it's hard to get rid of stuff, but you've got to get rid of it to make it.
Justice.
Yeah, right. I got what Gus is reading. I know you guys have seen it before, so I was asking if you had one too. You got many different types, things like that.
You're cute.
And this is one of them. They do have their limitations. Okay, number one is they are clear. So if you're going to store for a decent amount of time, I recommend putting them into a 5-gallon bucket or something that is solid, like a container, plastic container, something like that, where light's not getting in, because light, the major things that help deteriorate your food is air, sunlight, moisture, things like that, okay? So this actually takes out, this is oatmeal. I want you to pass this around. I've got the date on it. Whenever you do something like this, you want to put what it is and the date you seal it. And it looks really like a rock, because it's taking all the moisture out it does. It looks like a rock. Once you open it up, it just resumes its regular form. Now there are some things that you cannot do with this. Things that are sharp, anything that have edges on them, sharp edges, that we actually I just seen one today that it was a pasta, but it had points on the ends of it, and somehow it punctured it. I mean, it stayed for a while, but then I looked at it and thought, whoa, there's air in it. How did that get in there? So I've got to look, I'm going to go through the bag and see where it punctured. So there's some things that you cannot do in this. And then you have Mylar bags, which a Mylar bag is better than these, but they're more expensive. Mylar bag is you've got different mils of thickness, 4.5, 7 mils, and what it does is it keeps the sunlight from coming out too. All right, yes?
Is there a certain grade of Mylar that you use for food? Or if it's Mylar, it's okay?
Well, 4.5 is the lowest I will go. And because you want to be able to store that in a 5-gallon bucket.
So like, you know how thick a balloon is?
Expensive these, and for the width of the bag, I can do a Mylar bag. This one wouldn't be able to because it's not wide enough. But yes, that's where your oxygen absorbers come into play there. And also too, you don't have to worry about the machine getting dirty or whatever. So yes, you're right. What she had said was, would it be better just to use an oxygen absorber and a Mylar bag? Yes, it would be, instead of using a vacuum sealer. So we're looking cheese, refrigerated 1 to 2 weeks, 4 to 8 months. I'm telling you, you're going to get 2 to 3 years out of cheese in a freezer with a vacuum seal bag, easily. They have to give you, it's like the expiration dates we talked about last month. Yes, it is a safety factor that they're doing this. I guarantee you it's twice, if not 3 times longer for this. You've got cookies, crackers. One thing about, you want to leave them in that package, like Don said, with crackers or whatever, because the fact is it's going to crush them if you don't. I mean, when you see this thing happen, it's going to really crush them. So you want to keep them in the box. club crackers, things like that. Kathy's back there smiling because I've tried it. She's back there like, she'll hear me in the kitchen saying, "Daggone it, it didn't work." But I love trying different stuff. Yeah, there you go, chili, crumbles, crumble it up anyways. Pastas, nuts, dried beans, lettuce. I couldn't believe how much, if you take a head of lettuce and put it in a vacuum sealed bag, it's amazing how long it'll stay. I'm totally amazed. It says 2 weeks. That was about the longest I could get it for. Vegetables, we cut up, same thing. But you've got to have it there. I mean, if you don't have it available to you, then you're not going to use it. We keep it in the next room. This is a bigger one, where this one here's a smaller one. You could probably keep it in your fridge or on your counter the whole time. This one here's a lot bigger. I'm actually building a unit where it'll set on rollers and we can just roll it around to do whatever, because you want to be able to clean it too. So, and always, no matter what, make sure you disinfect this, especially with meat. Disinfect these things really good, because you can end up with food poisoning real fast. So, all right, we're going to take a break. I'm going to we're going to try to set up and see if you can get a better angle on this. But what we're going to do is just show you some of the basic stuff. And if you guys want to come up closer, you're welcome to. And after we're done with the class, you can come up, check it out. But you can see, well, I'll explain here in a minute. Let me grab plastic to where it had grooves in it. He sets it in here, puts a regular plastic bag in it, and it does the same thing. It's half the cost of these bags, or a quarter. Yeah. So I'm actually designing it now, working on it. All he did was take a soldering iron and made lines in it, heated it up, and melted the plastic. And then all you have to do is set it in here at the width of the gasket. Let me turn it down through. At the width of the gasket, and the air goes through, and then eventually here's the seal. So what happens is this gasket here, you've got an air port that'll suck it out. It'll suck all the air out. You've got actually a vent on the side here that'll actually pull out the air out of it. Then you've got this double gasket here, which will set on top, and then this piece here is your heat. This is what heats it up. This is a big thing. If it does not have the heat process and you've got any kind of gap in it, it'll get out eventually. Okay, so you want to be careful. I check everything. Once I seal it, I make sure there's a clear seal. This, I'm not sure the width of it, but this was the largest width that I could get from a sealer. Now, unless you go to the next step up, which is a big commercial grade one, and it does like a ½ inch, but you're looking $6,000 for this machine. Okay, this one here, I believe it ran, the price of this machine here was $4.99 with no bags or anything. It was $4.99. Now what I did is I went in on it with a friend, so the cost was not, we split the cost there. That is one of the best things to do if you've got a close friend or a couple or whatever, that you can share it, because you're not going to use it all the time. So it makes a big dent in your finances there. But that's why I wanted this one, because it was wider. It does up to 15 inches wider. And I can actually do, once I do that plastic piece, I can do Mylar bags in here now too. So yeah, now they're making Mylar bags with ribbed backings on. I just seen it the other day. I was doing some research, buying some different ones. So they're making ribbed ones in there too. Of course, they're a little more expensive because they got more time in them, but you do have that accessibility. So what this is doing is, once you clamp this down, it's going to seal everything. And then it's going to release it and let you know that it's done. But we're going to try some rice. So I'm going to open it up. We're just going to try a small bag. Actually, hang on, let's just use this. And we'll use this one. I don't have a cup, so I'm going to just manhandle it, scoop it in there. Guess what? I wasn't prepared, was I? Ooh.
Yeah, you were. You have your hand.
What's that?
You're prepared. You have your hand. You're good.
Now, what we were talking about this morning about once you seal it, putting it someplace
What's that now?
in the freezer.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you, Don. With anything, when you get big bags of rice, beans, things like this, sometimes you may get one, you may have little critters that get into it. And what's that?
Flour.
Flour especially, yes. You're going to have little, folks, this is just normal, okay? You got to understand it's just normal, and there may be little bugs. So what you need to do is, the best thing to do I've found is take it and put them in the freezer for 24 hours. It'll kill anything in it. So if you've got any bugs or things like that, that way when you open it up, nothing's growing in it, it hasn't ruined your food or whatever. And you can actually put it in a colander if you want to, you know, depends on what you want to do with it. But once you've killed it, it's done. And then also too, taking the air out of it, it's going to kill anything in there too. But I like to be doubly sure if you want to put it in the freezer or whatever. That's a great thing to do. Okay, so we've got it here.
When you buy that big bag?
You can get them. Yes. It's just the way it is.
I've never seen a bag like that.
Yeah, this comes from Sam's Club, but not in this one. I haven't found any yet. But yes, you're gonna. I've heard of a lot of people, or we've even found stuff in flour or whatever.
Yeah, especially.
Yep. You got to be careful. Yes.
I just add, it's usually the egg is in there.
Right.
And it's so small you cannot see it, but they will hatch. And then that's when you discover you can't miss the bug once it's hatched from the egg.
That's why they put an expiration date on it.
Yeah.
They treat it at the factory, and it should be, if it's you,
Right.
you've done 8 and it's gone, but if you keep it for a while,
Right.
you got crawlers.
So what they're saying is if the eggs, sometimes you get eggs in the bag, so you're trying to kill that all off. They've done treatment as much as possible. You can only expect so much from a company. So yes, you want to be careful. So anything like that, you want to freeze at least 24 hours. And that's just one way. But we've never had a problem with that, but like you said, flour is really bad. And you don't want to take it out of the package, you want to seal it in the package, so it'd make a big mess. Okay, what I've done is, it doesn't really matter where the textured side is on. I just usually put it on the bottom. And now remember, your heat seal is here. You've got your heat seal here where the tape is at. What I do is I try to lay it flat. You want to leave an open end inside this barrier. This is where the suction comes from, okay? So you want to leave it inside the barrier. Make sure it's just like that. Now I push down on it just a little bit. You don't need much. And we start it. You're going to see this thing start pressing is what's happening here. And it will automatically seal it once it feels the pressure has done well. Released. This is what we have. We have a clear seal. Nothing that's showing. And it is hard as a rock. Now, this will store, and I recommend, like I said, you want to put it in either a 5-gallon bucket or a box or a plastic container, because these things can be punctured, like we had today, moving stuff around, things like that. But if you put that into a dark place, this will last you at least 10 years, at least, without going bad. Now, the Mylars are better. You know, they are better, but they're more expensive. These are half the price of Mylars, or not a quarter of the price. But I'll pass this around. When you're thinking about doing this, I like mason jars too, and we're going to start canning next year when we do our garden. But you got to think, if you ever have to vacate your property, glass is crazy to move. So that's where Mylar bags, vacuum seal bags come in handy, buckets, things like that, because moving all those jars. There's a woman that you might want to write this down. It's called Meals in a Jar. She was a busy mom, started in preparedness, but wanted to make life a lot easier for her and her kids. She has 3 or 5 kids. So what she did is made already made meals, the raw ingredients in a jar. And all she had to do was throw it in. They were all done. And so it made life a lot easier for her. The problem is, she said, if something ever happened where they had to leave their place, she couldn't take them with them. You know, maybe only a few, but you're going to break so many of them. So that's where Mylar and things like that come in. But I thought this was great for the house because this didn't have that feature. But they actually have, and I've seen this too, it was just like a pressure cooker, but it does it dry. You don't use water, you seal it up, and it's got a pump on the side. And it actually sucks the air out of the pressure cooker, and it'll pop them just like it would a regular pressure cooker without the water. So it's not heating it up, it's doing the same thing here, but it's actually vacuum sealing in a pressure cooker. Yeah, it's amazing. Well, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. You know, people are looking for smarter ways to do this. One of the hardest things in the world to keep is nuts. I didn't know that. But nuts goes bad so fast because of the oil, the texture, and things like that. So there's many, many different ways. So yeah, these are the different 2 vacuum sealers that we have. There are multiples out there, guys, but I'm telling you, they are worth it. I mean, if you want to go, Gus, what did this run you? Can you remember?
I think it was 70 or 80 dollars
Okay.
a couple years ago.
70, 80 bucks, so maybe $99 now. But they've got them out here. Go out and price them, get on the internet. But I'm telling you, they're worth it. And if you can share, because you're not going to use this thing the whole time. I love when my friend said, hey, can you mind keeping this at the house? I said, for you, I'll do anything. So it really worked out good. So yes. All right, we're going to take a break, and I'm going to see, Caleb, you're probably have to bring it up here again because we're going to do Mylar bags. I'm sorry, buddy. We have a 5-gallon bucket and a 4.5 Mylar bag. So the best thing to do is, there was 2 ways that I found out how to do this, this type. Like we said, you can put in your moisture-proof packets, which one thing that I did find out through research, you do not want to put a moisture-proof packet and an oxygen absorber together. They will act badly against each other. So if you're going to put it, you want to put your just away from it, either in a layer or something like that, or in the bottom. But a lot of people will to do a 5-gallon bucket or 5-gallon bucket bag to do for what oxygen absorber, you need at least 1,500 to 2,000 cc. And what that is that will absorb all the air in that bucket. So you have to get at least a 1,500. I went overboard, got a 2,000 just to make sure that it'll suck all the oxygen out of it. I did research on it. They said once you've done that, you can get 25 to 30 years shelf life out of these. So yeah, what it's doing is this is taking all the air out, keeping it from sunlight, keeping it from bugs, moisture, everything else. And that's where you're going to get your shelf life. So what I did is I go in, make sure the bag is totally around. Then what you're going to do is pour in your rice. Now, if you've frozen it already for your 24-hour period, then you're going to know that there's no eggs in it. All right, so we're going to pour this in. If you want to come up here, Ted, you can. Now, some of them will put, okay, if you need 2,000 cc oxygen absorbers, some will put 1,000 in the bottom one and 1,000 on the top, so that way it works together. I don't know that it makes that much of a difference. I may try that next time, but I just bought a 2,000 cc oxygen absorber just to put in the top. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is when you put in maybe put in 1/4 worth, and then just take your bag and try to get it in there as much as possible. And get it compressed as much as possible. All right. Okay. Now, you were prepared. You had your knife with you. Okay. Then I bought a smaller bag because we're not going to have the time. It took, you want to give it good 24 hours to have that oxygen absorber in there to make sure it was really good. So we're not going to have time to sit there and wait. So I brought an example of what it'll end up looking like. We did it yesterday. So. Just pour about another 1/4 in it. Okay. Take it, pick it up again. Now it's filling up the bucket itself. Around there, it's taking a contour of it. All right, and I'll go ahead and fill the rest of it up. You want to at least leave a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch up top, as much as possible. So that way you can shut the lid, make sure it's not, I mean, it's going to shrink down on you, but a 1/4 inch should be fine. Try to judge it here, see if we got enough. Here. Just a little bit more. I guess we're going to be eating rice this week, baby.
So does how densely something will pack affect how many oxygen absorbers you have to use?
Well,
Like for instance, elbow macaroni, there'd be a lot of air.
yes.
Okay, so you'd have to use more oxygen absorbers.
The theory would be yes. That's where a vacuum sealer comes in much more accessible. What the question was is, will you, the more air, the bigger the product or whatever, will you need more oxygen absorbers? Yes, you would. It just depends. Pasta, things like that. Now, if you do straight pasta, no, you would have no problem with that. But if you did like the macaroni, things like that, yes, it would need more. They do have you can get online, there's tons of lists on there that show you exactly what you would need for each product, things like that. But for rice, rice condenses pretty well. Beans, you do have a little bit more air because it's not going to compress as much. But yes, you are going to need. So you would need to do your homework on that. But there's tons of sites out there, especially the guys that sell the Mylar bags and stuff. They'll have everything for you there. You'll be able to see. And one thing too is when you go down to the Mormon cannery, they actually have a booklet that they'll give you free. That'll tell you how to prepare things like this. So it's really, really neat. All right, so what I've done is, you want to show in here, Caleb? I didn't know. What I've done is just filled the rice up, left about a quarter of an inch in there. All right, now you want to be careful because, all right, this is the 2000 cc oxygen absorber. Now, how many have heard of hand warmers? They do the same thing. Now, the difference is you're not going to get the bang as you will a 2000 cc, but they'll do a smaller packet. What they do is once they hit oxygen, they start getting warm, they start eating the oxygen. That's how they work. Does the same principle. These are commercial, these are more residential for personal use. I have seen guys on the internet use these. Myself, I don't know how reliable I would trust my food for 25 years on these, where I know that these commercial grade ones are going to be better. So you want to be careful in that. But if you're in a pinch or you're doing smaller stuff, try it. I tried one in a bag. It worked. It ate the oxygen, made it flat, put something, pin in it or something like that, and it ate. But then there was one time that it didn't. So your dates on these are very crucial. They will go bad on you. So you want to use these up if you can. If you can. So for even your oxygen hand warmers, they will, even in the package, they will get old real fast. So look at your dates on those. Now, one of the keys, you're going to get these when you buy these. You may get them in a big pack of 20. When you buy 20 bags, they're going to send them in a vacuum sealed bag of 20. As soon as you open this sucker up, you're going to throw this in the bag and you're going to go back and reseal that bag up, because you do not want those other oxygen absorbers start activating, because that's what they're there for. And you'll see, and I didn't bring it. I don't think I brought it. Yeah, I did. This was resealed by mine, and you'll have what's called an oxygen indicator on it, and it'll tell you if they're bad or not. So it's going to let you know that. And so as soon as you pull one out, put it in the bag, and then seal this up first, and then do your bag. Okay? So let me put this back here. All right. What's that?
Are they reusable?
No. Once they're done, they're done. Yeah. The question is, are they reusable? Once you've done it, yeah.
Something else about the silica desiccant packets that you mentioned earlier, those are reusable.
Really?
Yes, you just take like a flat cookie sheet, put it in the oven on warm or 150 or whatever, and just leave it in there for a couple hours, let them dry out, and they're reusable.
That's great. Those syndicate packets that we was talking about, he said they're reusable. You can actually take them out and reuse them again. So what I did is I sealed this, for example, for tonight, and I'm going to cut it open. And as soon as you open this thing up, it's going to start. It's going to actually start. You could hold it and probably get hot. So I'm going to set it directly in the top. All right? Now, the key to this, if I can, let me jump out of the picture here for a second. You're going to need a flat piece. Some people use a round bar or anything like that. You're going to need some kind of flat piece of wood. I recommend wood because your metal is going to get hot. But you're going to need some kind of flat piece of wood, because they make what Mylar bag sealers. They make one that is, it's actually like a clamp, and you can find them on the internet, but they're $120 or $110. Okay? They're expensive. I probably will eventually get one, but it just seemed too expensive. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm going to iron it. That's the easiest way to do it. So you can put it on an iron or things like that. So we're going to take just a break because I've got to get the iron to heat up, and just take just a few minutes. So what we've done is we have a flat piece. It's, I think, 2.5 feet long, 3 feet long. Now, the major thing about this is you're going to want to keep this flat as possible, okay? And you've got 2 ends here, and you're going to want to push out as much air as you can to get out of it so the oxygen absorber doesn't have to work as hard. So what I did is I squeezed it as possible. Now, one thing I did find with these is if you're not careful, if you start to do one full seam, it'll crinkle on you and it'll mess up on you. So the best thing that I found to do is to actually seal both ends first and then do a middle. Leave a pocket in the middle, okay? And I should have waited for the oxygen absorber. I messed that up. But what you'll do is you'll see here, you want to get it on your highest, hottest setting, okay? And on this flat piece of paper, you're going to start from the side here. Looks like the steamer's on it. And it just melts it. Just like this. Seals it up. And I do both sides. Right there. Seals it up flat. You press down on it. Feeling it really well. Going a little bit closer. There we go. And just a little bit. No, go back over this again. Okay. Now I've got just a pocket in here to where I can actually drop the oxygen absorber in and get out as much oxygen as I can. Okay. What I do is take the oxygen, set it up, because look here, this is already done. It's sealed tight. All right. So what I'll do is I'll go in here and press it as much as I can, just to make it easier on it. Okay, bring this back here like this, put it back in the same position, and then I'll finish the rest of the seal. Okay. I'll go over it all again. This should be already done, but we'll make sure.
Steam necessary?
No, steam is not necessary. It's on the mode. I didn't take it off, so get a little dehydrated. You can do that. No. Okay. Now what you can see is, I mean, I've taken a lot out of the top, but I've still got air in there. It's not getting out, so you know that's a tight seal. I mean, I've got some here where I'm trying to funnel. Nothing's coming out, so it's just bunching up here. So it's got a little air left in it. What you want to do is just set it inside. You can feel the air here. I mean, you can see the bubbles and everything else. Feel the air. Now, you're going to start seeing a process in a couple of hours. But what I did is I went ahead and did one last night. Okay. Lost my microphone. All right. So you can see here, it went from this to this, guys. Sucked it all out. You can feel the grit of the grain. You can come up here and look at it, check it out. It's sealed. Nothing's getting out of that. 25 years. Simple.
Now when you open it, cut it open below the seal.
Yeah, what I would do is, yep, you would just cut it below it. That's why I took the wood piece to try to make it straight. I didn't seal the whole bag. I mean, I could have even done it tighter up here, but it's like I said, it's built for a 6-gallon or a 5-gallon, so you got a little edge. Once you start using it, go down a little more, seal it up, or take just enough out to put in a plastic container like we talked about. Seal the rest of it back up, boom. You can put another oxygen absorber a little smaller and do another one. But I can pretty well guarantee if you're gonna purposely use all that in that bucket, you're gonna set out to do that. If you've got a family of 5, they'll go through that no problem. You know, just real easy. And then all you'll do is, with a 5-gallon bucket, you've got to at least make sure it has a rubber gasket on the seal. So, and then you'll just take, I didn't bring my hammer, just seal it up. And it, well, let's see here. Didn't bring my rubber mallet, but it'll seal it up, keeps the sunlight out of it, everything else. Real simple. Any questions? I must have done my